Okay, given how Tuesday went, I would like to comment some on that too. Okay, yes, it's just a day later than the previous comment, but given what happened today, which was not overall good, okay, I want to comment on it as an extension of that. Okay, they did try very hard first thing this morning to pump the market back up. Okay, didn't work. Started coming down right away, but went down all morning long, okay, and halfway through the morning they went below zero, okay, zero being, whenever I make a reference to zero, it's a reference to the previous day's close, okay. And at that point they were below S&P 500 4,000 and basically at Dow 32,000. S&P 500 4,000 is a very important big round number, and the market does tend to try to work very hard to hold big round numbers, but Dow 32,000 is also an important round number because it's a significant amount below the previous all-time high, and the traders absolutely do want to avoid going below Dow 30,000. Now eventually, given what I've been saying so far about what's going on overall in the big picture, they will not be able to do that, but near term they will probably be able to hold it. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they hold Dow 31,000 for a while, and even maybe hold Dow 32,000 for a while, precisely because they want to stay at those levels to give them a buffer, a comfortable buffer against Dow 30,000, to stay above that level, okay? The key point being that by noon time in New York, where these markets trade, they were down at these levels of 32,000 and 4,000, and they spent the rest of the afternoon basically hanging on for dear life. It's not unusual lately, I've seen it a lot lately, where they try to hang on to certain levels for dear life for a while, and much of the time they're successful. A fair amount of the time they're not successful. They dipped below those levels during the day today, okay, they fought it back up. Actually on the Dow they fought it back up a fair amount, but then later in the afternoon it came right back down again, okay, and as is so often the case lately, they fight like crazy to try to get it at least back to the minimums they're trying to accomplish by the end of the day, and just barely pull it off to make the end of day numbers look as good as possible, which they're always trying to do. They're always striving to do that, okay? They did just barely hold S&P 500 4,000 level, and basically also just barely held Dow 32,000. So they did accomplish what they wanted to near term. They often do that lately. The problem is that then when further trading happens, they're not able, this is end of day numbers is what I'm talking about, so we're talking about a different day now when this is happening, a day out, a future day after that, either some hours later or some days later. They aren't able to hold it anymore. That's been going on a lot lately. That's why the market has been in a downtrend, okay? The market has been in a downtrend, meaning they haven't been able to hang on in the end, okay? They did try very hard to hang on today, as noted. That is not unusual, especially after a big down move. It's, as I noted before, it's very rare for a market to go straight down or straight up for any length of time. It does occasionally happen, and I do expect it to be going straight down for a while in the not too distant future, okay, but for now we're not that far along yet, okay. So it's stair-stepping down. It has been doing so. Today was another example of an attempt at that, okay. It was not another big down day, okay. As for the time being, one has to expect the market to act like that, to have big down days followed either by more or less sideways days, like today was in the end, or even a sizable up day. Okay, the biggest bounces happen in bear markets, not in bull markets. Okay, but the overall trend is still most definitely down. And the reality is also that part of the reason why the market was hesitant today, I mean, I'm sure in the meantime, at least as of the date of this video, pretty much everyone out there is fully aware that there's an inflation problem in the meantime, okay? And the monthly inflation report comes out tomorrow, okay? So the market was sitting on pins and needles today, you know, very nervous and uneasy, wondering what that inflation report is going to look like tomorrow, what it's going to say. And depending on what it says, the market will react accordingly. I will probably comment on that based on what the inflation report says and based on how the market reacts to that in the context of that. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, inflation good, market up, inflation bad, market down. That's not how things work all the time, okay? Sometimes the market reads something out of it other than what one would nominally expect, and I wouldn't be given the current overall situation, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens tomorrow too. Okay, in fact, I'm kind of expecting it, but we will see. Okay. As I noted in a previous video, I like to go by the reality of things and what that's telling me. Okay, that's one of the reasons why I had a break for videos for a while, because I decided to see how this overall situation will play itself out for the time being, and then get the Fed meeting out of the way, and then see how the market reacted to that, given the critical point we are at overall in the markets right now. Okay, I wanted to see how it reacted in actuality, in reality, before I commented on it. Okay, does my theory hold up, or do I have to make a comment in the other direction? Well, as it turned out, so far my theory is holding up, as it has consistently done so along the way already too. Not 100% of the time, but pretty darn close. Okay, I'm not talking about like 60 or 70%, I'm talking, I haven't measured exactly, but I'm talking about more like 90 or 95% or even higher. Okay, occasionally I get surprised too, but they're usually just small surprises. I take them into account and we get on with it. Okay. By yesterday, the Fed meeting ended on Wednesday. The market reacted even more quickly than I thought it would to the situation by coming back down again on Thursday, big time. Talked about that in the previous video. Okay, and it's continued to go down or just stabilize in the time since. No big up move since then. Okay, so the market did exactly what I expected to see it do ultimately after the Fed meeting, except it did it even more quickly than I thought it would do. Come down hard. Okay, and so we'll see what happens tomorrow. In that context, we will see what happens tomorrow in reaction to the inflation number. Okay, there's already some talk, as is typical of optimistic Americans in general and optimistic Wall Streeters in particular, okay, that, oh hooray, you know, if the inflation report comes in slightly lower than expected, we'll celebrate like crazy. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen for a short period of time, okay. I've seen similar analogous things happen in the past with other reports as well. Okay, comes in slightly better than expected, oh hooray, you know, big celebratory party on Wall Street. Until they think about it for a little while and realize just what it really means after all, and comes right back down again, typically. We'll see what happens over the next couple of days in that regard, okay? Anyway, bottom line is as of the end of the trading today, the downtrend is still well established. We'll see what it looks like over the next couple of days, as noted, and see how that affects things near term. I want to make clear here, I want to emphasize, it's only going to affect things near term. One quick comment at a general level in that regard here. There are a few things about the stuff I talk about that are pretty much set in stone. They are going to happen. The main question is when. But for most of the stuff I talk about at a detail level, they are not totally set in stone. Okay, some of them are highly likely, and most of them have happened. A high percentage of them have happened. But for most of the stuff I'm talking about, especially the directly market-related stuff, there are no guarantees. It's not always 2 plus 2 equals 4. Okay? And so that's why I'm regularly and pretty much constantly waiting for the market to corroborate what I'm expecting near term before I comment on it. So I'm not constantly saying, oh, I expect this to, constantly just saying, oh, I expect this to happen, or I think that will happen. No, my commentaries are intended to be based on the basis that I've indicated lately, which is the market has done this, and that indicates this and that, and on that basis I expect the following. Okay, in other words, that my commentary has some real grounding in reality of what has actually already happened, rather than just talking in anticipatory terms. Part of the reason I do that is, first of all, so it's thoroughly grounded in reality, and second of all, I see it all the time for years already. You know, the market people, especially when an important report is ready to come out, especially the employment report on the first Friday of every month. You know, when we get up to the hours and days leading up to it, oh, you know, what if this happens? What if the other things happen? What if this happens? What if the other things happens? We think this might happen. We think that might happen. We think that might happen. We think that might happen. It's all over the place. And my reaction every time is, why don't you just wait for the report to come out, see what it says, and respond accordingly? Okay? What I'm driving at is then when the report actually does come out, a few people, the minority typically, because they're, you know, especially lately, end up saying, see, it did what more or less what we expected to. In some cases, exactly what we expected to. What did the majority of people end up saying? Oh my God, not what we expected. What's the point of having those expectations in the first place? See what happens in reality first, and then base your expectations on that. Now, the reality for me has been, for many years already, especially once I found out about the law against recessions many years ago, and I mean, I was pretty accurate before then already, but I got to be quite accurate after that, once I incorporated that. Pretty much everything I have expected to see along the lines, along the way, okay, has happened in the meantime, okay? Not always with the exact timing I expected, but mostly that too. At least very approximately, very close to exact, okay? So my point is that my approach, my perspective, my analysis is based on the reality of what is going on out there, how the real world actually works, okay? And what the implications of that are, whether people in the conventional system like them or not. And I will have to add, usually, especially as time has gone on, and I anticipated that happening, they don't like it. Part of the reason why I started doing videos again, I started doing them a few years ago, but first of all, I wasn't really in a position to do it, and second of all, nobody wanted to look at them anyway at the time, okay, because things weren't far enough along yet, okay. Part of the reason I started doing videos now again is because I sense that we're getting very close to the time, as noted in the previous video, where the things I've been expecting to see develop eventually are no longer going to be eventualities. They are going to be either staring us straight in the face or actually happening in reality, with pretty much everybody experiencing them on a day-to-day basis. And then I expect there to be a clamor of, what do we do about it? 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 Okay? Because most people, as far as I can tell, are going to be completely unprepared for those circumstances and that situation. I'm hoping I can help do something about that when the time comes. I won't be able to change the situation itself. I know that. I've known that for a long time already. Okay, but what I'm driving at is a hope that I can help facilitate and or suggest solutions or ways to deal with the situation or ways to get around the situation. You know, I've thought about it along the way. We'll see, you know, how far my alternate thoughts and suggestions can go, and how realistic and how implementable they are under the circumstances, both depending both on what practical circumstances end up looking like over the course of time, and how, you know, open and amenable people are to possibly trying some of these things out. That is to say, how willing people are to get away from the conventional situation and attempt to have a better life under the circumstances. I suspect a lot of them won't be willing to do that. So, but we will see. Time will tell in that regard. Anyway, that's where it's at for now. We'll see what happens over the next day or two. I'll comment as soon as I regard it as worthwhile and appropriate again. It'll probably be in the next day or two. We'll see. I don't necessarily anticipate doing daily videos, okay, but they'll probably be close to that from now on at least, and they may be daily, not on the weekend because there's no markets on the weekend. But we will see how that plays itself out, especially very near term, okay, especially get that inflation report out of the way and see how the market reacts to that, given what is going on these days specifically in general, okay. As I said, the previous several days I knew things were at a critical level. So it depended on how the Fed was, what the Fed was going to say, how the Fed was going to react to the situation overall, and how the markets and people would react to that. You know, see how the markets did coming out of that. Well, we already have the answer to that, and so now we just need to get the answer to how, given the inflation problem that exists in the meantime, how the marketplace is going to react to the inflation report tomorrow, and we will go from there. Okay, we'll see how things go, and how, and in particular, and especially how quickly things go. That's the more important consideration at this point, I think, simply because the overall situation in the meantime is far enough along. You know, the overall long-term scenario I've been looking at is 90 to 95% complete in the meantime, which means the rest of it, you know, the overall circumstance is so thoroughly in place as a result in the meantime, is what I'm saying, is that the rest of it is pretty much set in stone. It is going to happen. The only question is exactly when, and that's why I'm keeping track of things on a near-term basis to see how that'll vary the timing along the way. Okay, it's not tremendously far out at any rate anymore. The question is whether it'll happen sooner or more relatively later. Okay, the videos I'm doing are intended to keep track of that, keep tabs on it, and, you know, observe and express my perspective about how that is coming along, so people are in a better people who view the videos are in a better position to follow through on things and have some idea both of what is coming and more, hopefully more precisely when. Okay, I'll be keeping an eye on it. I've been doing it for a long time already, and it's just a question of adding the videos in to make the information available to other people conveniently in the modern current era, and see how that can help people out. We will see how that goes. That's where it's at for now.